Obara. She's an advocate of the High Court and Commissioner of Oaths.
Yes. Thank you, Latte.
Yeah. Isabella, it's good to have you on the show.
Yeah, it's nice to be back.
Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon, you know about it,
Yeah, I do.
right?
I do.
So we are doing our 20th edition of the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon on the 29th of October. It's going to be a Sunday. So what we need you to do is start preparing for it.
Mm-hmm.
Go to nairobimarathon.com,
Okay.
register,
Okay.
pay only 2,000 shillings.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
It is not much, 2,000 bob. Register, start preparing.
Okay.
Come the 29th of October, we will be running along the Southern Bypass. Flag off is at Uhuru Gardens, and then the finish line is also at Uhuru Gardens.
Okay.
Go with your medal, but also the pride of participating in the 20th edition of the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon.
Mm-hmm.
It's the largest single-day athletics event in this country, and it's back.
Okay.
And of course, you know, it also takes place in some parts of the country, the physical race, and there's a virtual run that is held in the week leading up to this Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
It's a virtual race. So you just register as well and participate in this. It's very, very important. Ndu,
Yeah.
it's also holiday season.
Yes, it is. And everyone's favorite chipmunks, Alvin, Simon, and Theodore, are back with a fantastic new season of the classic animated series, Alvin and the Chipmunks. So you wonder for who? Well, for all the children who are on a holiday. They are the famous rock stars who tour the world with their best friends. And the new season started a couple of days ago. It's on Nickelodeon, DSTV channel 305. Open your kids to this wonderful world on DSTV to get this and much more in world-class kids content from over 15 dedicated channels. Feel all the adventure and fun exclusively with DSTV. Dial star 423 hash or download my DSTV app to get a DSTV decoder with 1 month of family for just 2,999 shillings.
Our next guest is the Honorable Robert Mbui. He is the MP for Kadiani constituency, Deputy Minority Leader in the National Assembly. Good morning, Mheshimiwa.
Morning, Eric, and thank you for having me.
Good to have you back in the studio. Today, because City is away, you are representing City in fashion style.
Looks like it was by design.
You are the City. Tukupatia tu ndevu ya white kidogo na
Oh,
mnai.
yeah, and it's there.
And a couple of glasses. And you're in. Karibu sana, good to have you.
Asante.
We've introduced you to Isabella, our guest host for today. I have the day's proverb. Today's proverb is from the Songhai people. These are the people who are found in Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso. It's an ethnic tribe. Confidence is like the cooked head of a sheep. It's a unique dish reserved for special occasions. If the head is cooked well, a person will eat it. Confidence is like the cooked head of a sheep. If the head is cooked well, a person will eat it. What do you think?
Well, I think it's an interesting one. But it just reminds me that even in our community, the cooked head of the sheep is what is eaten by the wazee. And it's eaten the next day after any celebrations, where they can be doing post-mortem and discuss how things turned out, how things went. So I don't know. I would look at it in the context of our own region. Yes.
And what's your interpretation of it?
I don't know. I don't know, but
it's like the cooked head of a sheep.
Confidence is like the cooked head of a sheep.
If cooked well, a person will eat it.
So if cooked badly, no one will eat it.
Yeah.
But you know, it's interesting when you talk about confidence and cooked head. That when a head is cooked, it's already dead. So maybe you have to be careful. You know, the amount of confidence you take out there, that you don't become overconfident. Maybe that's what it means, because I mean, when you talk about cooked, that's dead already. It can be about the taste.
How you present yourself, the kind of confidence that you have will determine how people take you.
Possibly, yeah.
If
it's complicated.
If your confidence is cooked well, people will eat it.
Indeed.
Karibu sana Mheshimiwa.
Asante.
A lot's happening. We've heard it just right now in the news. I mean, issues of these talks So the first bipartisan talks, those ones have flopped. They failed. Let's move on. Forget about it. The HT and Mandazi, we don't know who paid. It's okay. Just forget it. Now we have a new round of talks. And this new round of talks is where your party leader, Kalonzo Musyoka, who's heading the Azimio side of the new talks, has written to Kimani Ichung'wah, who's heading the other side, and he said, can we meet on Wednesday? What is expected to come out of these talks?
Latif, I think it's very clear from our side as Azimio that we've had issues with the way the country is being governed. And we've also had issues probably with the question of the last election. Just very basic things. And we just want answers, and we want to find a way forward so that we can forge ahead as a country. So what we want to achieve is the rights of our people to be respected. And the rights of our people basically, they've been trampled on by the regime. Rights to picket, demonstrate when they are unhappy. The rights to Article 43 of the Constitution talks about economic and social rights. And that is the one we are dealing with, which is the cost of living. Those are things that are really important to our people. Because after during the campaigns, we, both sides, promised heaven on earth. And after the elections, one team was announced winner and has taken up office. And we tend to feel that the people are disgruntled. Our people are disgruntled. It's a real issue, by the way, the issue of cost of living. It's a real problem. As a people's representative, every time you go to the village, the kind of poverty that you see, the kind of desperation, it's very painful. So we've said, let us put the agenda of our people's problems on the table so that we can see whether they can be addressed. How can we get together and agree on a few basic things on what can we do? And I've heard people, say, this thing of cost of living is a hoax. I'll say this. There is a problem, even probably internationally, of the economy. But more importantly, you must realize that when people are hard hit, I used to be a boxer when I was in the university. And one thing is that as a boxer, if you punch someone and they fall, you don't hit them when they're on the ground. You don't kick them and trample on them. Kenyans are already hard hit by the harsh economic conditions that we are living through. People can barely put even a plate of food on the table for their families. And during such times, you introduce two things. One, you reduce the disposable income, which is the money that people have to be able to spend by reducing their salaries, by overtaxing them. When you tax pay as you earn at 35%, that means somebody has already lost 5% of their salary on a monthly basis. That reduces the amount of money they have. When you tax people 1.5% for houses, that already reduces their disposable income. When you increase the amount of savings, and my people have been telling me, why would you want to save for us when we are old and we have no money now to eat? How will we get old if we don't eat? We will die now. So you increase the amount of money that people have to save so that they can consume that much later. But right now they're having problems. Then I know there is also an intention to increase NHIF. So people's disposable income reduces. And we're talking about maybe the lowest earning Kenyans who probably lose about 5,000 shillings. And of course it's more for the people who earn more. Now, go to the other side, which is the expenditure side. You already have less money. Now, when you come to buying basic goods and services, the prices of all these basic goods and services are going up because of the new tax regime. You increase the cost of fuel. That is an issue of production. That is one of the costs of production. So the electricity prices go up. Production in all factories goes up. You had the Kenya Association of Manufacturers said expect a 9% increase in the cost of all their products. Transport goes up. And when transport goes up, they said expect about 30% increase in transport because there's also, advanced taxes that have been charged. The other day, they were attempting to take all the drivers back for, further tests, which cost money. So at the end of the day, people have less money and they are buying goods for more.
Yeah.
And so it's hurting them. And we are saying, why can't we sit and have a conversation? Let us hear your opinion and let us see, can we strike a balance? So it is a real issue, I can tell you. It's a real issue for our people. And because we were also elected, the same way Kenya Kwanza leaders were elected. And by the way, let me just say this. It doesn't, you're not more special because you are elected in a certain office. Whether you are elected as MCA, as MP, as women rep, as senator, as governor, or as president, it is the same voice of the people that put you in that office.
Yep.
And no position is to be demeaned. They're all elective positions. So listen to the voices of those that elected you. So when I say the people of Kathiani are hurting, I expect the Kenya Kwanza regime to listen to me and agree that we sit at the table and converse around the issues. What can we do?
Okay. Moshima, even as you say these things, I mean, it's sure. I mean, you don't have to convince anybody that that is the situation. No matter how political we want to be, we know. We've talked this last hour even about the situation that we see in Kenya today. I don't think anybody can deny that it is a real issue. The question is it the issue that will be discussed, and will it actually yield a result? If the people of Kathiani, for example, know that you are in the forefront, can they be guaranteed that this conversation that is going to be had is actually going to take those things into consideration? Can they go and hope and pray for however long these talks are going to take place, a month, 2 months, whatever, that once you are done with that the answer will be solutions to these things that you spiritedly presented just now? Do you see what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Is that a guarantee? Will that actually be discussed? Is it them? Is it them that are being prioritized in these talks?
Yes, let me begin. To answer that, let me first allay the fears that everyone has. I can see Eric looking at me very suspicious. I can almost preempt what he'll ask next. You know, the reality is that Kenyans have reached this point of imagining that Azimio la Umoja, One Kenya, wants to be part of the government of Kenya Kwanza. And let me just begin by saying it is not even possible, so that we can move from that conversation, because that's why people imagine that what we have put on the table is not what we want. I've had that conversation. I've had the leader of majority has, he said it several times. He said, when they talk about inclusivity, they mean that we share government. The fact is this: government is made up of the president and the deputy president. And unless we are going to another election, those positions are already occupied. Now, the other one is the cabinet. The cabinet is already, in fact, overbloated. It's even, I think, an issue in court, because there are people that are not even meant to be part of that cabinet that are already part of it. So already those spaces are already filled. And I can tell you, there is no way my party leader is going to sit in that cabinet, or Raila Amolo Odinga to sit in that cabinet. So that's already out of the table. So every time they keep saying that, you want to be part of this government, it surprises me, because what position would we occupy in their government? So for me, the real issues are that we had promises we made to our people. They made promises to their people. They are the ones in power now, and the people are suffering. And William Ruto said that he wants a very strong opposition. A strong opposition is the one that puts a government in check. We are telling him, you promised heaven on earth. People are suffering. People are in trouble. People cannot afford basic things. So what are you doing about it? What can you do about it? And we have to also show our people that we know their problems and we are speaking for them. So that's what we are taking to the table, to tell them we want to be an efficient opposition. We want you to do certain things to make sure that the lives of our people are better. And that's basically it. So the fact remains that before we discuss anything else, the issue of cost of living must be talked about. But let me say, on the part that I've just mentioned, the leader of majority, and I'm not mentioning him individually as an individual, but I'm talking about what he said, which is in public domain. He said that we want to be part of government because we have put as one of the conditions inclusivity. Now, inclusivity is actually one of in the values and principles, which is in Article 10 of the Constitution. Inclusivity is one of them. It is very clear, and inclusivity means that the government must encompass every region, every ethnic group, and every even gender. So all that is part of inclusivity. You cannot form a government, excuse me, and tell us our government is a company limited by shares. And the shares are the votes that we got from your region. That's unconstitutional. So we are saying you must retract some of these things, because the people of Kathiani, those who support Azimio, may not necessarily be part of your government, but the people of Kathiani are meant to be part of Kenya. And so therefore, the services, the jobs, job opportunities, and development agenda must be spread across the country. That's what we are saying when we talk about inclusivity. So the problem is that...
so that's in government projects, not necessarily
Yes.
in government appointments.
Let me tell you, Latif, even in government appointments, you cannot become president and appoint people from your ethnic community alone. The Constitution is clear. Again, Article 10, values and principles of good governance that bind every state officer, including the president. When you are in office, you must spread out these opportunities.
Okay.
You cannot take people from your community, make them PSs at the expense of the rest of Kenyans. So that's what we are talking about.
Mheshimiwa, that brings me to a very pertinent point, because we are discussing the agenda in terms of what the bipartisan talks will be discussing. There is a human rights question that comes up, especially because these bipartisan talks have been preceded by maandamano. Yeah, the Independent Medical Legal Unit is a non-governmental organization that works around prevention and response of torture and related violations. And I'll have you know this, that most of the torture violations always happen around protests. Yeah, so I'm hearing a very protracted discussion around the agenda, but I'm not hearing anything to do with the human rights questions that have come up during this particular space. There's a family in Vihiga that will bury 2 of their sons as a result of the protests. Are we just saying that we will talk about issues of inclusivity and every other thing and let out issues of the human rights questions that have come up? Because it is very pertinent for us then to tell everyone else that maandamano is not a bad thing and that we will not have punitive policing around this particular space. So even as we discuss, I think that clarification will be very, very important to know if it is one of the key agendas in the upcoming bipartisan talks.
Yeah, thank you, Isabella. The reality is that I've only mentioned 2 of the agendas that we have on the table.
Right.
That's also one of them.
Yes.
The issue of police brutality. And you know, and maybe I should mention this. In 2017, after the last election, when Raila Amolo Odinga was coming from, I think, either Germany or Denmark, and he had said he wants to address his supporters in Uhuru Park. When he landed at the airport, the police were stopping his supporters from joining him on that tour and also for the meeting in Uhuru Park. I was part of that convoy. And in the process, the police shot me and broke my leg. I was admitted in Nairobi Hospital for a while. Up to now, I still have a metal frame between my knee and my ankle on my left leg. Up to now.
Oh, wow.
I walk with a slight limp. I can't run. Now, that is police brutality. When the police were sent to attackers, I broke no law. You see, the Constitution, Article 37, is very clear. And it says, if you're peaceful, I was peaceful because I was in my car.
Right.
I knocked nobody. I insulted nobody. I had no weapon. And you have to also be unarmed. I was unarmed. I walked out of my car and the policeman shot me. I rolled off the road into a ditch. He was chasing me to shoot me when I was in the ditch. But the cameras, media cameras, and by that I love media because my media saved my life. Media cameras came, you know, because I could see someone rolling into a ditch.
Right.
And the policeman who had shot me now turned and walked away because he couldn't shoot me now with the full glare of media. Now, if you ask what crime I committed, if you ask that policeman, I wish one day I would meet him because he knows me and he knows he almost killed me. He knows me. He can even come to parliament and say, I want to see the honorable member for Kathiani. He has never done that. I don't know him myself. I just saw someone in uniform, and I think it was obviously a policeman because they were all police. But, you know, at the end of the day, what law did I break? None. What mistake did I make to belong to then NASA coalition? What was my crime? To attempt to go to Uhuru Park, which is a public place, and listen to my leader.
Right.
Was I armed? No. Was I peaceful? Yes. But they almost killed me. Now, that's the fate of all these Kenyans that have been killed, completely because of their political ideology. And you know, the Constitution also allows political rights.
It does.
You know? So
what would you like to see?
I would like to see all those policemen that killed innocent Kenyans, not even now, just this time, even the previous time, even those ones who shot me. I think those people should be brought to book. But no regime has ever castigated, even
Why?
the regime before. No regime castigates these.
Why?
Because when you're in power, you want to crush your enemies completely.
But
That's where all the problem is. And your
so
enemies,
those
your
in
perceived
power
enemies,
don't really think much about those that are below.
yes. What happens
Those
when
that
you're
end
in
up
power?
being killed. We talk about Baby Pendo all the time. And Baby Pendo has become like the poster figure for demonstrations of what happens to the innocent.
Yes.
The complete innocent people who are shot.
Yeah.
When your leaders shook hands in 2018 with those in power then, you had 5 years of goodwill with the government. Did you push for justice for such people as Baby Pendo and the others for post-election violence of 2007? Such that now we can trust that on Wednesday when you sit, you'll actually push for justice for this family in Vihiga that has lost 2 sons and the very many others, the young boy in Amali and others who were shot, innocent bystanders shot.
Eric, what happened is that after the handshake, personally, I was very relieved because we had come from the brink of almost a civil war. It was a very bad situation, and I was a victim. I was very happy that there was a handshake because for me it signified peace and a kind of a truce, and so I felt relieved. And I remember in a function where I spoke, and my party leader was there, the Right Honorable Raila was there. The former president was there, the deputy president, then who's current president, were there. And I said, one of the things I'm happy about, because you remember there was a story about River Jordan and the sharks. I mean, not sharks, actually, crocodiles. I said, I am a victim. I have confirmed that there were crocodiles because I put my foot and I was bitten. My leg was bitten by a crocodile. And I said, I am happy that when I saw the handshake between Raila and Uhuru, it signifies to me that no one else will ever have to be beaten by a crocodile going into the future. Because I felt that now when we do this handshake, we are talking about when we finish an election, we accept and we move on together. Whether you're in opposition or in government, there's some kind of agreement on how we can work together. Unfortunately, it hasn't been the case because
you swept things under the carpet. That is what happened. You did not address the issues that you were raising then that Raila wanted to address at Uhuru Park were about election justice, electoral justice. 5 years, it was not discussed. They were not settled. The issues of justice for post-election violence, justice for 2017, justice and pursuit of justice, and even completion of police reforms were never discussed. When the minority had the goodwill of working very well with the minority did not pursue these things that you say are the things that you represent, the people agenda. You had an opportunity for the people's agenda for just until August last year. You never pursued it. Why should we trust you now that your people's agenda this time is actually genuine?
Eric, I'll tell you that in the Building Bridges initiative, because that was what brought together, the document that was brought together by these two leaders when they got to shake hands. If every one of those items in the Building Bridges, because Building Bridges was bringing together Kenyans, if every one of those things were passed and accepted and not thrown away by the court, we probably would be having a better country. But I see now you can see part of what the agenda that is being brought on the table by the other side is introduction of offices like the office of the leader of opposition. Because at the end of the day, let me tell you what the problem is. In this country, where winner takes all. And the loser has to go completely away. And when a country is divided, it's not like a constituency. A country is big and it has different, and our political voting patterns, unfortunately, are still ethnic based. Why is it in Rift Valley, Ruto is the best person to be president, yet when you go to Lower Eastern, Ukambani, Raila is the best person to be president. Yet these both of them have their strengths and their weaknesses. Is it that one region just sees their strength and the weakness of the other? No, it's because this community is aligned in this manner. That is how we vote as a country. So because of that, it is important that whoever is not president but had half the country, almost half the country. I mean, you're talking about this presidential race goes to about 50% because you need to get 50 plus 1.
Yeah.
And your runner-up is at 49 point something. That means that they have half the country, you have half the country. There must be a way by which the person who is number 2 is somehow accommodated. It doesn't have to be accommodated in government. But that's how we said the position. And that was one of the Building Bridges initiative, that there be an office of the opposition. So some of these things would have been sorted out had that thing gone through and also been passed by the courts. Unfortunately, the same team in office, which is propagating the same ideals, are the ones that opposed it at that time. They're the ones who took it to court. They're the ones who opposed it on the floor of the House.
I want us to take a break. Time for a break. 27 minutes to 8. Kenya's biggest conversation is hosting Robert Mbui. He is the honorable member for Kathiani constituency and deputy minority leader in the National Assembly. He's here today because we're talking about what we expect out of these talks that will be held soon. His party leader, Kalonzo Musyoka, is leading the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition 5-member team that's going to be meeting with the Kimani Ichung'wah-led side on the other side. What will they be discussing? What should we expect out of it? Mheshimiwa, Kathiani constituency, have you identified an area where the affordable housing project is going to take place?
Either we have some land that is at the Kathiani headquarters, district headquarters, that is always available for any development. So we would be able to put them up there. But I'm just wondering who will buy those houses in the rural area.
You go and find out from the people and go and tell them if they can tell you that they can buy houses, they should register on bomayangu.go.ke, because that's how you get to participate in the affordable housing project. The government says 290 constituencies, we are going to see affordable housing units coming up in all these urban areas. Kathiani is the district headquarter. It's big, right? It's big. Urban.
It's big. Latif, if you build a house in Nairobi and you don't live in it, you can rent it for 30,000, 40,000. If you build it in Kathiani and you don't use it, then if you attempt to rent it to the teachers of our schools there or the doctors, then you'll probably be getting 3,000 or 4,000.
Right.
It will take you like 50, 60, 70 years to pay back the amount of money that house costs you. So it may work in a city, but
there's some areas where it may work.
Yes, because of the rental income. Because if I work in Nairobi and you give me a house in Kathiani, how do I go live in Kathiani, work in the city? The whole concept, I think, was a little warped. I opposed it from the beginning, so I'm still opposing it, but now it's part of law.
Okay. Okay. Bomayangu.go.ke is where you register for the areas that you'd like to participate in the affordable housing project, or you can dial *832# back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to...
Ethan! Mommy! Mommy! Ethan!
From the depths of heartache to the heights of happiness, lives intertwine in ways you never imagined.
That's how I look at it, being the mother of Jaime's children.
Secrets are revealed, alliances are tested.
It was your husband who killed my daughter!
Mommy! Mommy!
And true love faces its biggest challenges.
You know what? This is your fault. I warned you.
Love, betrayal, and endless suspense thrive in the world of soap operas at KTN Home. Tune in.
I saw the killer bride.
You mean the ghost?
We fear that Mzee is slowly slipping into a comatose state.
At a what?
kuzuia kupatikana kwa ushahidi ni hatia kisheria.
Baba saizi yuko kwa koma na alikuwa sawa.
Kuna tofauti kati ya witch hunt na uchunguzi wa kina.
Uchunguzi unaonuia kuwa kila anaishi ndani ya hii nyumba ni mhalifu.
A banana gives us energy. You can eat them as crisps, as juice.
Drip irrigation is use of small water. It's not a must you water the plants every day.
You mix the soil with the manure, then you ensure that seedling is upright.
That it's going to be a priority for your discussion. I know we've gone into your experience and what it is that felt like, but what does it look like for the person who's somewhere where they can't access reparations or effective remedy, or even just get an advocate to tell them that indeed this was torture and you're supposed to get this and this, or even go to court? Are you able to actually affirm and confirm that you're going to prioritize this, especially in terms of effective remedy? There's so many people crying. There's so many people looking at you, especially in this particular space of the bipartisan talks, that something will genuinely come out of them.
Yeah, thank you, Isabella. Yes, something positive will come out of them, because the person that we have named as leader for our team is an astute negotiator and a person who's been a peacemaker, renowned actually internationally, our party leader Kalonzo Musyoka. So I think we have the right person who can help bring all those issues on the table and make sure that each of these issues is concluded amicably, for the benefit of our people. Unfortunately, and I also have to just mention, we've had the other side, and it's unfortunate when it starts from the aspect where we cannot even seem to agree on the time, on a venue. And in fact, the agenda now becomes second fiddle, because if we can't even agree on the time and the venue, that's already a problem. And politicians are very big egos, Latif. Huge egos. And the biggest problem we are facing is just the ego problem. Because if one of the parties has already proposed, let's meet on this day, we start our conversations. But the other party has already indicated, no, now because you proposed this day and this venue and this time, I will change it so that you come at my terms. What kind of country are we trying to run in that manner? And let me say, you've had immediately after we formed the bipartisan teams to start the talks, unfortunately the president himself, his deputy and his cabinet and all the members from his side, including the speakers of the two houses, start a tour. And the agenda is the talks and saying, no, we shall not do a handshake. When they talk about it, let me just simplify this for them, because sometimes I hope they are watching. Because what is a handshake? Because last time when Uhuru and Raila shook hands, the country saw peace. Yes, it's unfortunate that the opposition was kind of muzzled. We don't want that to ever happen again. I don't think it's a good thing. I don't think the opposition should go to bed with the government. I don't think that's right. But then what is a handshake really? A handshake first is a greeting. I expect that my party leader, when he goes to meet the team from Kenya Kwanza, he will greet them. He will greet Cecily
by
Barire.
shaking hands.
Yes, he will greet the Honorable Ishungwa and the team. He will greet them. That's a handshake. I expect that because they're saying there will be no handshake. I'm expecting that there will be an agreement. Again, a handshake is a sign of agreement. Right. I mean, let them just go back to the basic dictionary. They will agree on certain things. When you say we will not agree in advance, we will not shake hands, that means you're already preempting that there will not be any agreement on any of these items. Yet you already have your own agendas on the table. They have, I think, 4 items. Yes. So are they saying we will not agree on the 4 that they are presenting? And if we agree, why would we not shake hands on those? Again, a handshake is a sign of truce. Peace.
Yes.
At the end of it all, Kenyans want peace. We have been in the streets fighting.
Sure. Mheshimiwa, usually when you enter into a situation such as this, that the bipartisan talks is introducing, you must usually look at yourself as one side and look at the other side and have a deeper understanding of just the talks that are happening, right? Some of the things that you've talked about just now, why would you feel this animosity? Why? And I guess that's the actual question. Why do you think that it is such a pain point? Why is it so difficult? Why would there be, as you say, delaying tactics, not agreeing on this date, not choosing? Why would there be that atmosphere already, even before words are spoken or a meeting has been had?
I'll tell you, it's suspicion, and the suspicion is based on what happened in the last time there was a handshake between the president and the leader of the opposition after the last elections. The deputy president then felt slighted and felt that his space was crowded up by having the leader of opposition getting very cozy with the government and very cozy with the president, and that is one of the things that he felt. So obviously the leaders within the Kenya Kwanza coalition are feeling that a handshake might bring in the leaders from Azimio close to the president, and then there will be another causing and friendship that might sideline them. It's a suspicious thing. Okay. It's suspicion. But you know, if both parties have said, if the leader of Azimio has said he doesn't want a handshake in that manner, he doesn't want to be part of government, and the president has also said he does not want to share his government, why can't the people that they are sending believe this? Now, let me tell you, one of the problems we face in those talks is that one of the sides, the leadership sent there, may not be able to make any decision without reference to their bosses. But my party leader is a principal in the coalition and can make a decision on behalf of the coalition.
Okay.
So by sending His Excellency Dr. Kalonzo Musyoka to the talks, we've already demonstrated that we are sending someone who can make a decision at the table. He doesn't have to pick a phone and call someone outside because he understands what they stand for. But the team that has been sent by the Kenya Kwanza regime will keep having to walk out to the toilet to make a call to confirm whether this can be done. And that is what would be the problem. And I think what they should do is just agree that they have one leader, one chair, that is my party leader. And then they run this thing together. And let me tell you, it's very easy to solve some of these problems. I can tell you, there are some that are already in agreement. IBC reconstitution, they're already in agreement. Basic things like inclusivity, they just need to give a commitment and say,
even
going
cost of
forward,
living, there's an agreement.
On?
Cost of living.
Even cost of living, they've said they do not want a discussion on cost of living.
But there's an agreement that there's an issue about cost of living.
Yes, both sides know there's a... But all they have to do is agree. So what do we say to Kenyans together? You know, at the end of the day, they must stand together and tell Kenyans, this is what we have agreed on the cost of living. There's a problem internationally, but this is how this government is going to address this matter going forward so that we can have a few quick fixes so that Kenyans stop suffering continuously. So there must be some agreements. I can tell you there are some very easy things, low-lying fruits that they can sort out. In fact, within the first 1 or 2
couple of days like this, and they can move. You've already had a parliamentary group meeting, right? As Azimio, are you?
Yes, we just had a briefing from our leaders.
From your leaders,
yes.
What are they taking to the table with regards to cost of living? What does Azimio want the government to do? What will they be?
Our real issue goes back to the finance bill that was already signed into law. So it's an act of parliament. I know it is in court.
Yeah.
But we are asking that there be some goodwill and reduce the amount of taxation they are taking from Kenyans a little bit because we are going through harsh economic.
So revise the
finance bill. Reduce the amount of money you are taking. The taxation regime is too high now at this current time. Reduce it, and then also reduce the taxation on production on fuel. You can even come to a balance of maybe 10% instead of the 16%. Find a way to stop and do not affect the disposable income of Kenyans too much, and also do not make the cost of basic and goods and services too expensive.
Is there a concrete proposal that is coming even from your leadership in Parliament to the team that's going to be meeting and says, in our quest to review and revise the finance bill, these are the 5 areas, the 5 clauses that we want to amend? 1, this one on VAT on fuel, reduce it, and our proposal is from 16%, bring it back down to 10%, like you've said. On ABCD, are there specific concrete proposals that Kalonzo will be taking to the table on Wednesday?
Yeah, Eric, what we have proposed, because it's a negotiation, is we have proposed that they amend completely and repeal all these taxes, the punitive taxes, the new taxes introduced in 2023. Kenya has been operating for the longest time. The new taxes.
Do not change anything.
Yes, do not increase the turnover tax. Do not increase the VAT on fuel. Do not increase the pay-as-you-earn tax. All those do not introduce the housing levy now.
Okay.
So ours is to repeal. Go back to where we were. We were still collecting taxes. We were paying taxes.
Is there a proposal to amend the Appropriations Act so that you're telling the government to spend less?
Once
because the government has already come to you as parliamentarians and you've allowed the government to spend 3.7 trillion shillings in the next financial year.
Yes.
Now, if you do not want them to raise money that is commensurate with that, what proposal are you giving them? Where do you want them to get the money? The 3.6 trillion shillings.
Eric, let me.
Are you approving, therefore?
Yes.
Are you then approving a higher budget deficit? Meaning that Parliament, including Azimio leadership, are saying you can borrow more, or is a proposal reduce the expenditure? What exactly are you taking to the table?
Let me. We make this thing sound so big. Yes. It's a very basic thing. If we agree that yes, we can reduce the taxation so that we do not hurt our people, then they will, once they come up with an agreement, they will be able to now figure out how much then are we collecting, how much less are we collecting within this financial year as a result of the agreement, because they have to come up to an agreement.
Yes.
So once they agree on that and they know the amount they are reducing, then from that point is when you can look at what part of budget can we also cut. Okay. You cut your cloth based on your size.
We already know. We already know how much they raised last year.
Yes.
We know they raised 1.8 trillion. Well, they say they raised 2 trillion shillings.
Yes.
Okay. So if they raised 2 trillion shillings, you don't even need to have a conversation. First cut, then we can discuss. It's basically you saying reduce your expenditure to 2 trillion shillings.
Yes, but
is that what you're taking to the table? Because if it's not,
yes,
we'll go back to even what people are asking on social media. When Finance Bill was being passed in Parliament, many of your members were not in Parliament. Even those that are saying that they're champions of the people were absent when the new taxes were being passed in Parliament. They were absent when the new expenditure was being passed in Parliament. How do we trust the same people to sit around the table and champion our cause?
But Eric, you've just made it seem like it is all of us who are absent. We were there, we were present all the way through. When the budget was being discussed, we gave our opinion. And I've just said, cut your cloth based on your size, isn't it?
Yes.
That's the same thing I said on the floor. Go back to Hansard. That's exactly what I said. And I've said that almost every year since I was elected in 2013. Because I find government continuously operating on a deficit. And you know what? Even if you are, people look at government budget like it's special. It's just like a domestic budget for your own house.
Jeez.
You have a certain salary every month, and this is the amount of money you'll be paid. How can you consistently be planning for rent of a house that you can't afford, take your children to a school you can't afford, drive a car you can't afford continuously. So you're constantly borrowing and borrowing and borrowing. So it reaches a point where you decide, I will not drive a Probox. I'll go for a Volkswagen or rather the opposite. When I was younger, a Volkswagen was the cheapest car, but now now it's changed. So you can change. You can move from Mutaiga and go to a different place. You can go to some place in Buruburu, or maybe even go to Madare or go to Kibra. So the biggest problem is that the government is constantly living large. And then the development agenda. You want to build roads, yes, and it's not a bad thing. But if you want to build a house and you don't have the money, will you build it that year? So you'll wait for the next year. So for me, I think the part of expenditure is the easier thing to do, because even though there is a budget, you're not compelled. It's not a must that they spend that money. Every year we pass a budget, they don't spend all the money.
I totally understand what you're saying, and indeed, yes, you were vocal in terms of how the government should or should not spend money. And then one is left wondering if members of parliament are actually aware that once you give your approval towards how a government will spend money, that's cast in stone. The ink dries on that, and then we move forward. So even as you speak those words, my question is, even the members of parliament who are on this other side, is there concert in terms of resolution? Is there concert to say, you know what, guys, this is actually where we are and this is where we ought to be going? Because the lack of confidence or the almost mistrust that could very easily snowball into distrust if it has not already, is that members of parliament then go into the August House and they're not really serious about the things that they're discussing. Because if it's just the MP of Kaviani and a few other voices here who unfortunately will fall into the minority when it comes to a vote, then we're not going anywhere. And that's the reason why you now see, year after year, a country, in terms of its budget, is running in deficit. Because decisions are, the crucial place where decisions are being made is not taken seriously. How do you get the people on your side, if they are going to actually operate in a position of opposition, to say, not for our selfish needs, but let's look at this thing later on and what effect is it going to have? I believe those then will fuel a decision. And when do we get to a point where sitting in parliament is not just sitting in parliament, but sitting in parliament is taking into consideration very seriously the things that you do and the effects that they will have in the future, like what we are dealing with today. I dare say that if when those conversations were being had, if enough people were on the floor of the House, if people raised their voices a lot more like you did, we would not be in the situation in which we are in today. Is that even possible?
Okay, I think you have a brilliant analysis of what is happening. I will tell you where the biggest problem is, because it is true, and I think as media you need to keep telling members to be vocal in what they believe in. Let them speak out. It's important. But then, there's an issue of whipping. In every parliamentary democracy, there is the person called the whip. And the whip is really like the whip that is used to beat up people. When the whip is applied, people will vote along party lines. And so many are the times when members are deep in their hearts, they are agonizing about that decision, but the whip is applied and they have to vote in a certain way. That's where the problem is. And I think also you note that after the last election, a lot of members of Azimio la Umoja trooped towards the government side because of the mistaken belief from time immemorial that whoever holds the reins of power also is the one who holds the strings to the purse. Unfortunately, in today's constitutional dispensation in Kenya, the purse is actually held by members of parliament. Yep. But they seem not to know. So what happens is that members will troop to State House to go and ask for a road, to go and ask for a hospital, to go and ask for some development agenda, which is actually canvassed on the floor. So I think media needs to tell members, and I've said this, but media needs to make it clear, because it's in the constitution, that you are the ones that have the budget, so that members of parliament You know, that's what happened to us. Members of parliament from Azimio trooped to the side of government, and now we are left few of us.
Should we be a bit worried that they do not know? Should we not be a bit worried that they do not know?
You have to be worried. I am worried. I am worried.
Mheshimiwa, I'm seated here wondering
I am worried.
If you are in this particular discussion and you're throwing it back to the media, what is it that we are doing exactly right now? Because if you're saying it's the media that's supposed to capacitate these particular members of parliament in terms of budgetary allocation and so on and so forth, what is it that we are doing? So you in your party, by the time you have this particular group that's doing something in parliament or maybe trying to pass a bill, do we actually know that our members understand exactly what it is that they are getting into, so that you know that there's a particular facet, for instance, that understands this particular budgetary allocations, and you have experts where need be that can advise them? And I'm speaking this from a point of, again, torture, where we have had a budget that's very, very bellicose and very crazy, but we don't see anything coming out of it. I'll have you know that from the petition 122 of 2013, Victims of Violence, PEV 2007, were awarded amounts that have never been paid up to date, but we still have very crazy. But what's happening? Do our people know exactly what they're doing? Do we even look at the items in this particular budget? Or you're saying that now it's Ndu and Latif to take care of these particular people? Is it
okay?
Where are we?
What I'm asking the media to do is keep hyping to members of parliament the responsibilities. Let me tell you, all of us, when we get elected, our agenda is not the same. And let's just be real. There's people who just get elected for the sake of it, just because they can be in parliament. There are people who get elected to protect their wealth, so no one can touch their wealth.
Right.
So because they are in parliament, there are people who just like the title. You know, they want the title, and that's why you find, even when it comes to attendance, to contribution, to even I mean, how many times you listen to a member speak even in a public forum, and you wonder, doesn't this person really understand what's going on in the house? So it's important that the media, because all of us have to help each other. It's important that the media keeps telling members, please, can you go back and do what is expected of you? But the problem is that when we found ourselves in the minority, some of the members of our side also despair, because they know even if you vote, even if you speak, it might not change anything. At the end of the day, there is a tyranny of numbers that will go and sweep these things into law, despite the fact that they may be hurting our people. So that's a problem we are facing.
And we as a media will have people here and we'll tell them, you're failing.
It's important. we are failing, we are accepting. And we are sorry to Kenyans.
Mheshimiwa, thank you very much for joining us. The Honorable Deputy Minority Leader in the National Assembly, Robert Mbui, is the MP for Kadhiani constituency. He's been our guest. Keep it here for more conversations. In the next hour, we commemorate the August 7th bomb blast.